Good day, everyone. Welcome to the Hyrox North American 2022 Championships live from Chicago. We've got a lot going on. We've already had the mixed doubles competition, which we want to hear about in a little bit, but we got a couple of great camera dudes. We got Riker in the house. We got Bill Brumbuck in the house. Both of those guys also did the doubles. But on the call today, the baldest badasses of Baltimore,
I'll take it. It was a stretch.
You started strong.
Bracken Cracker in the Midwest, and Dave up in Canada.
Sadly, still up in Canada. Oh, big time disappointment that I can't be there today. Bracken, super excited. I want to be the first to congratulate you on the mixed doubles championship with your amazing partner, Callie.
Thank you. Thank you very much. This might be the most fatigued broadcast crew in the history of broadcast crews. 3 of the 5 people on here just needed like 15-minute turnaround between the race and now. I didn't even shower, Dave.
Well, you smell fine. And so from my perspective, I might not be as tired because I didn't run, but I am technically have COVID right now. So we're all good. So we're all fighting our demons. So obviously, this is a stacked field. This is going to be amazing. Let's run down some of the men, Bracken. Who do we need to watch out for in the men's field?
It's getting redundant to say it, but Hunter is still king of the castle until someone dethrones him on North American soil. But Ryan Kent kind of is that berserker storming the castle today. He is as fit as he's probably ever been in his life, specifically at this hybrid style of racing. And everyone else that I've talked to seems to believe that they're all running for third. And that you usually don't hear that out of athletes.
Yeah, that's definitely not. You usually hear them say, I'm gunning for the win. I'm going for it, especially with the likes of when you have guys like David Magida, who is not one to say, I'm not out there to win.
And I shouldn't say everyone, because Dave Dylan didn't specifically say it, but 3 or 4 other guys in this field that I talked to that I won't name said, yeah, I believe it's going to be Kent and Hunter are 1-2. That's already decided. And then a big pack of us are going to be fighting, and it's going to be epic and crazy. And you generally don't hear people give it away like that. But that's kind of the nature of Hyrox. People know where they stand before the race starts in terms of their strengths and weaknesses.
Is this going to be an angry Hunter, an I want redemption Hunter, considering his performance at Worlds?
I don't know. Angry Hunter is a good hunter, but I can't help but wonder if there's any amount of what's going to happen in his mind. Because the last time he competed, he felt something he's never felt before at this style of racing. And until you return, outside of a Lauren Weeks, you don't always see someone come back better. The truly special ones do. And I think we both think he's truly special, but it's always tough that first time you get smacked backwards a little bit.
I tend to agree with you. I actually think he will come back better than Worlds, but I don't think he will be at his peak. For example, I don't think his record is in danger today, just due to the situation, the layout of the course and everything. And I just still think that, like you say, maybe the confidence is just that little bit lower than it was before.
Mm-hmm. I actually believe that he can break his record today.
Really?
Now, this course, having just run it, is not a fast course. Transitions are long, and the final run and the first run are both long. The final run especially long, probably 50 seconds longer than the other runs. So it is long, but if all things were equal, fitness-wise, the one issue he's had, or I should say there's 2. There's 2 issues he's had. One is when he gets pulled in other directions, which is what I think we saw before Worlds. He had too many irons in the fire, and he got caught with his pants down a little bit, combined with European sleds. But the other issue is that sometimes he burns it a little too bright. Before his Murph record, he actually got to the point where he was showing some symptoms of like borderline rhabdo at time, where he was really overcooked. And we might see him maybe not as sharp, but undercooked, which means he might just have absorbed some of the previous work he's done. And a fresh hunter is a strange beast to see in this type of event.
All right. So moving on to the women. Let's talk about some of the women we're going to see. And this women's field especially is stacked. When I saw the list, I could not believe the names that are there.
Well, we have at least 3 women who all believe they should win today. Is that a fair statement to say?
I would think so, at least, yeah.
Yeah, and several more who think they could play upset, and then we've got several newish names coming into it who very easily could be a player. Right now, you see on screen that's Alyssa Hawley, and Alyssa's coming in. We haven't seen Alyssa really do her thing at her highest potential yet. She got injured in Orlando. She never has strung like big long blocks together because she's been coming off injuries. So while she's not at her best, maybe that still will be the best we've seen of her.
And again, we saw just quickly there Corinna coming back and throwing her hat into the ring. I'm not sure what to expect for Corinna because I don't know I don't think she's been training up to this event as far as this is like an A race she's been getting ready for. But at the same time, this is Corinna Coffin.
Yeah, and Corinna kind of started her career out the way I thought about Ryan Atkins, where I just kept thinking he's not going to keep doing this. Someone's like, this is the time he's going to lose. And I bet against him several times. And I finally got to the point where I said, I'm just never picking against Ryan because his body of work, every time he shows up, he just does it. And Corinna's falling into that with me, where every time she goes to a Spartan Games or a Tactical Games or Spartan Worlds or anything else, I think she's not ready for this modality. And she shows up and she just absolutely smashes it. So I don't think that I can bet against her.
And again, we have Rachel Vonderak, who was until this morning, I think, still a coin flip as to whether she would be there. And I just saw her on camera, and she's looking fit and ready.
Saw her this morning. She's dialed in. We always look too far into appearances, but she looks the part. If you wanted to create someone in a lab to attack this course, you'd create Rachel.
Oh, yeah, she has that running ability. She has that strength. I've been a big fan of Rachel's from day one. Some other names, Sarah Harrison, and just stepping in as well, coming in at a bit of a last minute entry. These women that jumped in at the last minute just completely changed the dynamic of how this race will go.
Yeah, Sarah Harrison, anyone who's ever competed with her knows that she's just not an easy out. She may not be thought of like a Lauren or a Rachel, but she is that type of athlete. You have Leah Duhans there. This is her first one, but on paper, she has a lot of the skill set to do well here. Your first Hyrox is a brutal awakening, but there are some girls on the fringe here who could move away from the fringe.
And this isn't Sarah's first, though. I believe she was in the invitation.
No, Leah I was referring to.
Oh, Leah. Okay, yes, sorry. And as well, another name that pops up to me, Tara Jackson, who we've seen do very well in hybrid racing.
Absolute animal. I got to watch her on the treadmill the other day where I believe she was doing DECA and looked very, very impressive. But there are a lot of, I think the men, we've seen more known commodities, and on the women's side, they've traded spots a lot, and there's some new blood in there. And to me, that makes it even more exciting.
And as you can see, these women are all getting ready they're all at the starting line.
What name is conspicuously not present?
I'm sorry, Bracken, I could not hear you there.
I said there's one big name that rules the sport that we haven't talked about yet today.
And who's that?
Well, that would be Lauren Weeks.
Lauren Weeks, yes. And Lauren probably has very good reason for not being here.
And in that presence not being there is just like every girl woke up smiling.
Hey, Lauren Weeks is here.
Well, Lauren Weeks is there. There you go.
She's right there in the Riverbend CBD, I'm sure.
All right.
Well, there goes that entire line of logic there that every girl woke up smiling, not having to compete against her.
Well,
they might have done that, and now they found out they still have to compete against her.
The question will be, is Lauren going to be racing her all-out best? Is she going to be pushing her hardest, or is she going to be hanging back a little bit on this one?
If she's hanging back, it's truly because she can't.
Exactly.
There is no off switch in that woman.
No, she is an absolute machine, and she is the dominant force at this sport.
If I could, we've had this conversation. If you could pick attributes you would want, I think I would want Lauren's mindset. She has the ability to flip the switch no matter what distance, and they're off here, and just peg it.
Oh, yeah, they are going out fast. And who do you expect to see take out this start?
Lauren, through and through. Lauren has no chill. Like realistically, she has one style of racing that we've seen up until this point. I know she could adapt, but she hasn't needed to adapt. She takes it to the girls from the start. And these women have a hard time responding to the pace she puts on them.
Yeah, I think sometimes that maybe some of them should drop back off the beginning, and instead they try to run at the front.
She is up, it looks like. And she is the exception to the rule. almost everyone who has done well has embraced the let's back off a little bit. David Magida did that recently in a race. He backed off. He ran his slowest run first, and he PR'd by almost a minute. She doesn't subscribe to that model.
Well, you can't argue with her results, so I'm not going to doubt her in this for sure. It will be interesting to see, like I said, considering her condition right now, if she pushes, though. That's my only question with Lauren.
I love this. We have Kent, Hunter, and Rich Ryan out on course.
And there is Lauren flying.
Yeah. Lauren will be the first in and out of that first station.
How do you think someone like Chris Roglowski is going to be on this? This will be a bit of a different thing for her.
Yeah, and for most first-timers, she's not a first-timer. She's done two. She did one 2 years ago. She did one earlier, but she hasn't faced this level of competition as far as I can tell. You would worry about someone like that, but someone like her who can go from DECA up to a 100-mile race, she knows her engine, and that's kind of the biggest missing piece for a lot of people here. You don't know how to pace it. I think she's going to be just fine pacing it, and she's going to be in the mix. If I had to bet on someone to do well, I'd bet on her.
Yeah, I would never count Chris out in anything. As like you said, she's proven she has the kind of Atkins-esque range to her abilities.
She really does. And she keeps getting better. Normally people have their one big year where they over race and then the next year they back off. She has no plans on doing that. She's just going to keep the pedal to the metal and race early and often.
I would like to see from some of these other women. I'd like to see them keep up close, a little bit close to Lauren, or not Lauren. Yeah, to Lauren going into that sled push. I think if they lose contact with her there, that'll be it. Like if she comes out of that sled push, say, as she's cruising by there, what kind of gap has she already put in them? If she's more than 30 seconds ahead of second going into that sled push, coming out of that sled push, that bodes for a long day for the rest of the ladies.
We've talked in the past about how Hunter doesn't really lose ground on any second half station. And I think that applies to her as well. The only weaknesses she's shown in the past are on the sleds. She greatly remedied those. But if you want a chance to beat her, you have to be in contact by the time the sleds are done. You're absolutely right.
Yeah, if I'm someone like Rachel, I want to be pulling ahead of Lauren after that first. Definitely by the time the sled pulls over, I want to be ahead of Lauren. Otherwise, it's going to be a long day.
Talked to Alyssa a little bit before this. She has the exact opposite approach of Lauren. Her goal is she said, perfect day. I would be the best on every single station and just recover and relax on my runs. It's a very interesting way of attacking this.
Well, I'll be perfectly honest. That was going to be my plan for my attempt, was to just have the runs be, slow and steady and really blasted on the stations, because I know for myself, and I assume for her, does not have the running speed to keep up with the really fast people.
Yeah, and it shows where she feels her fitness is at. She feels strong in the stations, and that the running wouldn't be the game changer anyway, so we might as well lean into what we do well.
Yeah.
Also, I'm sorry to hear that you got your COVID. You got it a week apart. I got it over just in time to race, and you got it just in time to screw your race up.
Just in time to get out of the race. Yeah. Well, and I was going to run a 58 or so, and so it is a bit disappointing.
Did you see this comment here?
Freshly shaven face. What is it? The
pre-race routine has nothing to do with shaving my face. It's shaving my head.
All right. We have Lauren already coming into the ski erg. Let's see if we can get a rough time on how much of a lead she has.
I got a clock going here. She's one of those people that every one of her motions, even if she's not being like hyper aggressive and violent with it, it looks that way.
And there
she has a frantic look to her motions, which kind of builds her aura up, that people will look at her and be like, man, she's flailing away. But that could just be kind of the way her hair flops around and everything like that.
Well, and you could see that the whole pack of ladies came in right after, all strung together. I think you're going to probably see Rachel and Corinna do really well here, as they just have that extra power.
Chris Roglowski looks like she knows how to ski as well. You know what? Sorry to cut you off. Looking this might be the best looking ski station I've seen yet, where every female here has spent some time skiing, and there's not a lot of like crazy choppy strides happening here in strokes. This looks legitimate.
Yeah, you're right. Where you don't have someone who seems out of place. All very smooth looking strides. And I think it's got to do with the growth of the sport and the fact that the age of the sport, things are coming along now. These women aren't as much as first timers. They're getting in there and they're totally experienced and they're taking it seriously.
It's wild that the fastest work rate is Lauren. Like our reigning champ is the only one who looks like she's not embracing the spool that thing up and recover on the way up. She just goes and goes and goes.
Oh yeah, she is an absolute machine. And Rachel as well too. You can just see the power in her strokes.
Yeah. Rachel can just flat out generate.
I would tend to believe though that she would be the physically strongest woman in the field.
I would think so too. Yeah, she can just put out power in a very rare, unique way. Chris looks very smooth. I don't like to apply too much to appearances because we don't know how they're feeling, but everything she does, she is composed. And to watch her on the ski erg, she's composed there. She's not rushing. She has long, smooth strokes. Again, it shows that everything she does well.
Yeah, you never see her out of place anywhere. At any modality, any race, any distance, she is always a contender. And that's just amazing.
A guy I work with, Rob Pettyjohn, who I want to shout out here, missed the world record for the his age group by 3 seconds today. So I'm following him the whole way, and I get to wall balls, and I'm cheering for him. And do you know who his rep counter was? Chris Rogowski. She's racing in 55 minutes, and she's over there working a station because that's what Chris Rogowski does.
That's okay. She's probably got the rest of the volunteer shift after this.
Lindsay, good comment here. Could you commentate on the distances for new people watching? Yes. Hyrox is made up of 8 stations, 1,000-meter run into a station. All the cardio stations, which would be the ski erg and the rower, are 1,000-meter distances. So right now they're skiing 1,000 meters, and then they have to get off and run another 1,000 before moving on to the sleds.
And then the sleds, how far? The distance on the sleds is 50 meters each for both the sled push and the pull. Correct. And what about the weight for the women?
275 on the sled for the push, and I believe 165 on the sled for the pull. But that's in addition to a 100 or 110-pound sled. So you're looking at 385 and 275 for the 2 weights. And it's a 12.5-meter distance, so it's down, back for each of the sleds. So you have 2 turnaround points there.
And we're looking at an 80-meter burpee broad jump.
Correct.
And a 200-meter farmer carry at what weight?
Farmer carry, now that one I believe is 50 pounds per hit.
50 pounds for the woman, yes. And then, of course, there's 100-meter weighted sandbag lunges before you go into the final 100 deadly wall balls.
Yeah. Is it 40 or 45 pounds on the sandbag?
I believe it's 44.
I should really know that. I just did that this morning. All right, Lauren's off.
All right, let's see your clock here. And there goes Rachel.
Rachel right off behind, but started to go the wrong way. I will say this. There are 3 stations where the out isn't particularly clear. I didn't think this was one of them. Both sleds, you come in on the far side of the course, you run down to the sled, do your sleds, and then move to the far side back before running back around. So you kind of double track twice on there, and it's not as clear. I had my partner find out which direction we leave while I was working. So we're starting to see some people finding a little bit of difficulty following the flow of the course.
So coming off that ski erg, we had Lauren Weeks, then we had Rachel Vondrack, followed by Chris Rogowski. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, it's, again, names we mentioned that we expected to see up front. A little surprised at this moment that Corinna Coffin's a little further back.
Yeah, that could be tactics right there. Mm-hmm. If she's been training the power sports like we think she has, she might just be hanging out on the cardio stations, and then she's going to start putting out on the sleds.
Very good. And you can see up on the screen there, we have the times from their skier. So Rachel Vondrack with a 4:16, Chris Rogowski a 4:21, Alyssa Hawley with a 4:21. Lauren Weeks with a 4:22, all very similar, but you can see Rachel Vondrack.
Jackson 4:21. That's a clump there.
Yeah, exactly. And Rachel was just a little bit faster as we expected with that 4:16.
Alyssa was tied for second place on there, so she's sticking to her plan to be at the top end of the stations.
Yep. And again, I think, from Rachel's perspective, this is what she needs to do. She needs to make the time up on these stations to compensate for, like, not that she's slow. She is a good runner, but Lauren is just a little bit better on the runs.
Currently, yes. It would be very interesting to have seen her a little bit closer to her tri days.
Yes. Yeah.
Her
Whereas
road running days.
now she's much more of a strength athlete.
I'm interested to watch what Chris Roglowski does on the runs. How much emphasis she wants to put there in terms of closing a gap.
And I would think she would definitely be one of the ones that have the engine and wouldn't drop off as much in the later rounds.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen her on a podium at OCR Worlds. She has 100-mile engine in her legs. It's a little different after sleds and lunges, but at the same time, it's not terribly different than huge, steep mountain climbs into running again.
How does an athlete do that? I mean, as a trainer, how rare is that to have that kind of range?
She's a unicorn. There are not only to have the range, but to have just that God-given ability to recover in between. It's one thing to be good at everything. It's another to be able to do everything consistently and not really have it negatively impact you. It's kind of as a coach, you see that once or twice in a generation of athletes that you might work with, that you just find that person that has it.
And as you see on the run there, we still have Lauren, Rachel, and Chris. And
Not spend too much time, complimenting Chris, but she has a stride that's so underneath her and stable, meaning she doesn't have side-to-side movement. Her legs don't flick out, that there's less breakdown in a stride like that. She's someone that I'd expect to run a good second half of the course here because she has great just form and function and that she doesn't break down normally.
Yeah, I mean, that kind of stride has to help with the endurance big time. I mean, that just takes away every little bit that you do that is less effort you can save for later on. You can continue on.
Usually when you add power to a frame, it accentuates any of your bad habits. And she still has that perfect forward, backwards motion. You're not seeing elbows flying out as I knock a lamp over, her hands flying out. She stays pretty much in line.
All right, let's see here what the sorry, but that is too small for me to read.
352, Lauren Weeks. Camilla going 403. Rachel 404. Chris Roglowski 405. Alyssa Hawley 405. And then Tara 406. Vivian 408. Kelly 409. And the drop off goes down from there.
And I think we got Lauren coming into the sled push.
Interesting that Alyssa didn't plan to do crazy work on the run, but she's settling into a pace that keeps her firmly in that second pack.
Now,
here's
right
what
here,
you wanted.
Look at the move. Yes, look at the move Rachel is making. And here's Chris, obviously doing well, but you can see differently. Now, who's that we have that is overtaking Chris right there?
Is that Vivian? Or is that Tara? This is what you get when our pre-race preparatory work for this consists of racing for an hour. We didn't hit the books like we should have.
I've often said it'd be nice if they had classic jerseys with names on the back and numbers. That would be great to see. Lauren, though, is not giving up that spot. Rachel's pushing hard, but Lauren is hanging on.
I think it's Tara Jackson to the right in those white shorts, and then Vivian to the right of her.
I believe you're right. And Rachel looks like she has passed Lauren.
And look who's joined that group. Alyssa's right there pushing with them.
Yeah, and Corinna has made her way up as well.
Yeah, she has. These turnarounds are brutal because 12 and a half meters is slightly longer than most of these women would want to break their pushes up into. But it's very seductive to see the end and be like, well, I'll just get it to the end rather than take my break early. So you get there always a little more depleted than you probably should be. And then you want to rest a little bit longer than you probably should.
Now, how much right there we saw Rachel and Lauren set off together on their second lap. How much does mind games come into there? How much are you playing on your opponent? How important is it that you start the same time they do?
For some people, it's everything. You have to be very locked into your plan, knowing that I am responding to moves or I am doing my own work rate no matter what. But when you start straying from that, saying I'm doing my own race, and then someone makes a move and you respond to their work rate, that's when you get into trouble. Would it shock me if Lauren Weeks is purely an emotional racer and just says, every time you raise me, I'm going to raise you back? No, it would not shock me.
No, it doesn't. And I wouldn't be surprised if she did it, excuse me, if it did weigh on Rachel a little bit, whereas I think Lauren may have a bit of a better engine. So if Lauren may be thinking, if I just stay with Rachel here, that can mentally be a lot of drain on her.
Yeah, I think mentally Rachel needs to come out ahead here, because you know that Lauren's going to react to that and rev again on the run. And she needs that energy switch going back and forth to start taking energy out of Lauren's tank, so that in that second half of the race, Lauren can't be accelerating away. You can take a lot out of people. These are like body blows early on for a boxer. You're taking it out of them for later. They may not be noticing what's happening, but later on, they're suddenly not going to have that gear that they need.
Here we go. Rachel pushing to the end, just slightly ahead of Lauren.
It shows what Lauren's done. Lauren went from losing a minute on her sled in what was that, in Texas, to suddenly matching who we believe is the most powerful woman in the field.
That's right. But, to her credit, Rachel needed to make her move there, and she did. And she made up a good deal of time and came out of the sled push ahead of Lauren. And that is definitely something that she needed to do.
I would give anything to be able to see a power meter above all these women's heads. Be able to see what's the true cost of what's happening here.
And I would think, isn't that power meter, aren't you going to see that on the next run? Isn't that where you really see the cost of it?
Yeah, and coming off the sled pull. The sled pull doesn't seem like you'd use the same muscles, but what the commonly accepted strategy now is to grab the rope low, lean backwards and walk it backwards. Suddenly you're putting a lot of pressure on your quads down on that VOM area. And that's really what gets worked on that sled. So you'd think it's a sled pull, but it's really a lot of quad work.
Sorry, Nick there. We had someone sneak out, Nick Riker. Who was that got out there? If Nick can hear us.
It's very quickly becoming a two-woman race with a third in the mix, kind of in no man's land. No woman's land, would that be? And then you're going to have Tara's moving out here, and you're going to have that chase pack. But they're quickly up almost a minute on the chase pack.
All right, and we don't think that's Tara. We think Tara's in the yellow top. We think that's an international competitor.
That's Vivian there?
Told. Yeah. Yeah, Nick, can you unmute?
How about that? Our own channel messaging us on their own channel to their own cameraman.
And I believe that is Tara right there.
She doesn't want to run quite yet. You can see this is really taking a lot out of the leg. And that's what happens when you get to a sled and people are going slightly faster. You just got to overwork a little. Chris has lost a lot of ground.
Yeah, I think that this sled, Chris just does not have the physical body weight to help her that some of the other women
If
have.
we can zoom in on her, I want to watch her run out. All right, she had the best exit that I've seen. It could have simply been a strategy decision to back off a little bit, but she ran out well. And that's important mentally.
Now here's the times. Corinna Coffin with a 3:12. So that was the fastest. Rachel Vondrack a 3:25. Lauren a 3:39. Alyssa a 3:42. And Vivian with her 3:57.
That's very, very impressive to watch Corinna's there. And I want to just apologize in advance for Dave and I coughing and sniffing this whole time. I'm 5 days removed from COVID. You're in the middle of it. I just raced. Things are just moving. We're going to do our best to mute ourselves, but you might get a little bit of bodily functions going on today.
Yeah, we will do our best. So back out on the run. I think we still have Rachel hanging on, but I haven't seen if Lauren's been able to overtake her yet. But now, in this particular situation, now I'm thinking in Lauren's mind, she wants to get into that sled pull just as quick as she wants to get in there at the same time as Lauren to mitigate the gap.
So there's Lauren. Do we have eyes on her?
There's Rachel right behind her.
All right. Lauren has not.
And that was in the yellow top. Was that?
If that's Tara, she's
Tara,
locked
yeah.
down.
So we're waiting for that third place.
A lap here is going to be somewhere around a minute 30. You could go up or down from there depending on how people are pacing, but puts in perspective that there's already a gap that big in this race.
Now, what kind of effort would you compare this to? Like, if you were a runner, would you compare this to a marathon effort, to a half marathon effort? How would you pace yourself?
You know, the crazy part is that we end up running around marathons, and it costs you 10K effort. It's really bizarre. Early on, you're trying to just calm yourself and hold yourself back to run marathon pace, feeling like easy run pace because you're early and you've got the juices pumping. And suddenly after the sleds, it feels like 5K or 10K effort that first lap to run marathon pace. So the pace and the effort absolutely do not ever correlate.
I just saw Alyssa Hawley run by there, and she looked good. She looked like she had good form going. She looked smooth and was at what I would call a confident stride. So as Lauren, it looks like Lauren Weeks is into the sled pull. Is that Lauren there? Off to the side? Maybe not.
Lauren's in.
And now, what technique do you find is the best for this sled pull?
She's got 5-6 seconds there on her.
Yeah.
When it's heavy like this, which this is, grabbing and walking backwards is very efficient. If you had to just get it down one time, I think you would try to just muscle it hand over hand. But when you have to do it 4 times and then still use your muscles on 5 more stations, you're constantly playing that battle of how much can I save my energy while still working fast? And the walking backwards seems to be kind of universally adopted.
I think that this is a harder station to make up ground than on the push. The push seems to be a situation where someone like Rachel with a little extra weight and a little extra power could make up distance easier.
That very well could be the case. There are times that people just lose a full minute and a half here, but they do that on the sled too. The sled, they lose it from rusty because they can't work. And on here, they lose it from working slower.
And it looks like down there we have Alyssa Hawley on as well.
Alyssa's having herself a day.
Yeah, she's looking good. She's definitely in good form.
And I love to see that. She's due. We never deserve anything in life, but I can't help but feel like she deserves a good performance here to justify her years of great performance. Interesting, Alyssa came into this sport coming off of softball and CrossFit as a power athlete who continually outran her potential in long course OCR. And now she spent years trying to become the best runner she could. And along comes the sport that she should have gone into right out of college had it been around. So she has this reverse career arc going, and I love to see her get rewarded for that.
Well, it does seem like maybe she is finally changing gears and figured it out. What I'm seeing here, though, is Lauren is maintaining her gap on Rachel. Rachel is not able to close here.
Yeah, this is a case of Lauren. Now we're totally speculating right now, right? Which maybe I just shouldn't even do. But Lauren has the look of someone who spends a lot of specific time on this. And we know that Rachel does a lot of different style of work.
Well, the other thing I'm seeing here is a lot of good rope management by Lauren, and Rachel maybe not so much. I'm seeing the rope getting in the way of Rachel's feet as she's backing up, maybe costing her a couple of steps. Whereas Lauren was very clear and clean, and she was able to step without worry about it.
You're 100% right on that. And that's kind of why I say that, because it just speaks to like your habits that you default to are the ones you've practiced. And I would never say that Rachel hasn't worked on this, but I would just guess if I had to pick something that Lauren has spent a significant amount of time working this because she's defaulting to rope management. And that slips your mind when you're in the middle of a competition like this.
Yeah, I know that practicing this myself, the first time I practiced this, I tripped on that rope 3 times. Yeah. And it seems like a simple little thing, but it's so easy to forget it and get caught up and just literally step on that rope and fall down.
It feels like it has a mind of its own. Like its only mission there is to find its way back under your foot and tangle you up.
Now, if I look over, I see Alyssa Hawley is doing more of a standard stand there and pull. She was doing less walking and more just a straight pull.
Yeah, if she's feeling good upper body and the weight isn't feeling crazy, that you can work some more of that in. Especially if you're thinking my legs are going to be my weak point running, save those quads a little bit, save that teardrop area where all that pressure goes to when you're leaning forward on the front of your toes, trying to push the weight by moving backwards. It's a tough ask.
And Lauren is out and off, and then Rachel is right behind her. Probably, though, I still say there's probably a bit of about a 10-second lead. And I want to say thank you to everybody as well for their donations to the broadcast. We really appreciate it. Keep it up. Andrew with the $9.99 donation. Thank you so much.
That was an important station for Lauren. She came in with about 5 or 6 seconds and left with maybe a hair more than that. So that's a massive, massive statement, even to not gain much, to say that, all right, this was another power station, which is theoretically in your wheelhouse, and I did just fine. Alyssa, she's off, which I believe puts her in third now, unless one more snuck out that we didn't see.
No, I think it is. I think she is in third, and I think that just looked like a great sled pull on her part.
Yeah, and this is where the sled stations get you so much, because your work is so segmented that you have that transition from back to front every single time. And as soon as someone gets out and gets running, they're just eating into that lead, just building it while everyone else is at their most fatigued, resting the most.
And you can see again here where we've seen Chris Roglowski, she is probably struggling a little more on these heavy stations.
Corinna had a very good ski and a great sled push. I'll be very interested to see what her split is on this, because she doesn't seem to be making up the same ground on these other women. She's simply going with that big thrust, big pull, and we haven't seen a lot of walking backwards from her.
No, and she, again, with that rope management, does not seem to be cleaning up that area very well.
Yeah, she's done a little less than the other women here in terms of competing at this event.
So you call Alyssa Hawley with a 3:53, Lauren with a 4-minute, and Rachel with a 4:12. I mean,
Okay.
3:53 from Alyssa. That is a fantastic time.
So 4:12 compared to 4, that could be now almost a 20-second lead.
Yeah.
But you just don't want to give her momentum moving into these back half, because she burpee broad jumps so well.
Oh, yeah, one of the best. And Chris Roglowski just snuck out there as well. She's heading out, so I believe that put her in 4th or 5th.
This is right where you find out where everyone's at. Ski erg is kind of you can be a flash in the pan there. We've seen some people lead early there and then never be seen again. Coming off this, how you run out of the sled pull is who you are as a Hyrox athlete, in my opinion.
So what's our next station we're running into now?
So 1,000-meter run, and then you head right over to burpee broad jump.
And I find this is something, again, we talked where Lauren just excels, and I don't expect anyone to make up any ground on her here.
It's one of those stations where you kind of have it or you don't. You can refine how your technique is, but some people are really crushed by this station, and some people just find that it suits them very well. And body type doesn't seem to play into it. There are some tall people who can't stand it and some tall people who love it. There are some compact athletes who can't stand it and some compact athletes who love it. It just seems to be a innate skill.
And then we're seeing Corinna with a 4:57 on her sled pull. That surprises me.
Yeah, and that speaks to what that sled push did to her. She made a move, and then you find out maybe it was a bit much. Look at Camilla.
That's fantastic. Camilla is 3:43, and it looks like we're getting ready for the men's field to set off there.
Camilla and Vivian neither got mentioned before the race by us and are both showing up on the leaderboard for every single station. Good on them for waking us up here.
Well, I love it. I love to see people come out and surprise you and show that they belong, really prove that they're a force.
I love watching how people line up for races. It tells you a lot about what their mindset is coming in.
Oh, well, come on. You got to let us in here. So what is the mindset here?
Well, you're going to see a couple people who move right up to the front because they know that's their spot. And then there are some people who move up because they are hopeful that that's their spot. There are going to be some people who back a little bit behind and say, I'm not doing anything crazy. Saw
And
Victor
they're off.
there. Victor moved to the very back. The last time you and I commentated here, his goal was to be the first person out of the run, first person off the ski erg, and first person to the sled.
And maybe Victor has learned from that and decided that I'm going to step back a bit and not give myself the temptation to try to run up front.
Yeah. And that's that evolution as an athlete. You never want to lose that tenacity that says, I am the best here. You don't want to move to the back and say, I let you go, I concede. But evolving your strategy is a good thing to see.
So, and we did see what I noticed right on the front there, the three guys who are wanting to go head to head between Hunter, Kent, and Megiddo, all side by side.
Every single one of them has the biggest chip on their shoulder 24/7. And they all can justify it.
Now, Lauren doing her burpee broad jumps, and you can she does that one step forward.
Yep.
So she goes forward with one foot, then brings the other into her hop. And I think that, to me, I find that to be the most efficient strategy. Thank you very much, Todd Stewart, for your donation, and we appreciate it, buddy. Thanks for tuning in.
One of the keys here is keeping your center of gravity low and forward. And she does well with that. It looks like bad posture and form, like you can't open up and breathe, to be rounded and hunched over, but it guarantees forward momentum and movement. It's not a big broad jump, stand up. It's stay low, jump hunched, give up a little bit of ground on your broad jump in order to be a little more efficient and be able to land and pop right into the burpee. And she does very well. We'll see that with Hunter later on too. David McGee does a little bit more upright. Hunter likes to stay low and go.
We saw Rachel Vondrak still in second place going through her burpee broad jumps, and Alyssa Hawley definitely in third place, looking very solid on hers. And I think using that same two-step technique.
Step up, head. Look at her head never sights. Her head's down. If she looks up, it's when she's at the bottom pushing up.
She's getting really good distance on that jump.
She is. And her head never goes above where her probably her sternum would be standing up. What that leads to is fast burpees, but compression of diaphragm, and you're a little nauseous coming off this thing. It becomes more of a cardiovascular event just because you can't breathe well.
And sorry, is that Vivian in fourth in
That's
the
what
white
I believe
shorts?
we're saying.
Yeah.
We're starting to see it string out a little bit.
Yeah, they are definitely getting into their positions. And this is, I think from my perspective, this is the hard part when someone gets a bit of a gap on you to really continue to push when you're kind of in that no man's land feeling in a comfortable spot. What do you do mentally to make yourself push harder and to try to catch that person?
Well, the nice thing about this sport, or the bad thing about this sport, is that you're different on every station. Some people come into this and they dread it. And so they get to it, have a gap, and they see like, well, this is the closest I'm going to be to this person this entire station. They're going to pull on every single burpee broad jump. You have someone like Chris who's coming in and instantly eating into this woman's lead ahead of her. And so she's just feeding off of it. She's going, all right, I'm already making up ground. I can maybe even throttle down half a notch, save a few heart rate beats there, and still eat up a ton of ground. And then you come out of that with the, a bit invigorated, and you want to get working because you've just had success.
Thank you very much, Corey Edwards and James Stengel. Appreciate your donation. So I think we should have the men coming in to the ski erg right very shortly. Who do you expect to see here?
I think Ryan Kent.
I wouldn't be surprised. He has been running so well at his recent competition for DECA. We saw him look so solid, and he looked smooth on the run, and he looked completely fit. I mean, talk about passing the eye test. Nobody passes the eye test better than Ryan Kent.
Hunter's either going to come in first with someone right on him, or he's going to be right on first place's shoulder.
And here we go.
Oh, Victor still did
Victor
it.
decided to go up, yeah.
Right behind him.
And then Hunter right behind Kent.
Kent got 3.5 pulls before Hunter got his first. Now, this is what really interests me because Hunter is always the best at the skier. However, Ryan Kent has become very, very good in that DECA fit forum of the 500-meter ski. If he can translate that at all, his success here, there's a chance he comes off this with Hunter, which Hunter almost never has.
Is this the first time we've seen out of Hyrox Hunter and Kent go head-to-head?
No. There was I believe, Chicago 2 years ago. 2020, maybe?
Thank you very much, Mike Payne. We really appreciate it, and thank you for tuning in.
Kent had just broke 60, I think, in New York, and then he came in with a bunch of hype, and I think Hunter put it to him in Chicago 2 years ago.
Now, I noticed there another thing. David Magida is sticking to what would be his strategy that he has talked about, where he held back a bit at the beginning. So he's not right up there with Hunter and Kent, but seems to be doing what he had planned to do.
Yeah, now that is a fantastic strategy because it worked out for him. He cut a minute off his time. He finished strong all the way through. And he told me afterwards, I could go even harder towards the end because I wasn't even believing how good I was feeling. However, coming with that type of strategy into a race where there are a lot of studs in the race, it changes things when you watch people move away from you and you start to second guess and doubt a little bit. It's harder to keep that momentum rolling when you're not necessarily catching up as quickly.
And just to update as well, we still have Lauren Weeks in first, Rachel Vondrack in second, and Alyssa Hawley in third.
Yes,
and
that is Rich right there in the black headband, sandwiched in between Cole and Magida.
And Rich is someone we haven't talked about today, but another guy who has proven in the hybrid racing to really be keen into it and definitely has specialized on it. He's one of the people who has made it, this is my A game, this is what I'm going to do. Do you think this is fit in with his pre-race plan where he's just going to hang at his pace and run his own race?
Yeah, and he has gone in specifically these last 5-6 months with the intent of gaining strength and specifically mass. This is the biggest version of him we've ever seen, and you can see that visually. He's always put together, but he has put on 10 or 12 pounds intentionally with the hopes of being able to play into the stations a little bit more. And this is the first time we're going to be able to see him test that out.
And there's another name there we just saw that we didn't mention, Dylan Scott.
Dylan Scott.
Dylan Scott is a complete wild card in this, whereas he is so different from every other athlete that we see here.
We didn't think he could do it early on because of his frame. He didn't look like he could generate the type of power needed, but he just never slows. He never runs out of ability to put out work. So now the question is, can he continue to improve without having added any more mass to his frame?
Now, he has told me personally that all of his pre-race benchmark workouts have indicated that he is in better fitness than he's ever been going into this.
And we're talking minutes difference.
Yeah, minutes difference. So, I mean, nobody puts in the volume he does. And
hence first off and looking quick out. And everyone looks quick out of the first skier, but he's running with intensity.
That was an amazing transition. He's gone. And there goes Hunter.
That's a good 7-8 seconds.
And they came in very much side by side.
And theoretically, Kent's going to outrun Hunter for these first several stations too. So I wouldn't be shocked if he comes into that first sled with double-digit seconds.
Well, Hunter's famous for saying this race doesn't start till after the sled push.
Correct.
Or after the sled pull. So what'll be interesting is if we see somebody still with Hunter after the sled pull, do we have a relapse of the Worlds when Toby was able to maintain pace with him at that point?
Rich moving up here. I like seeing
and there's Cole and David.
The gap's, I think, a little bigger than David would want. Do we have a land shark here today?
I believe he was supposed to be there.
I thought I saw him earlier on the skier. And he's the one who does the David Magida, right? He's never on screen. He's never on screen. He's never on screen. And suddenly he's blowing past people on wall balls and making a podium.
All right, let's take a look in on our women here who are on the rower right now. There we've got Lauren and Rachel side by side again. These two are going to forever duel in this arena until the end of time. It'll just be a back and forth. I'd love it.
Very interesting watching their row form compared to their skierg. Rachel skied long with a nice long recovery coming back up where Rachel just hammered on it. And now on this one, Rachel has a slightly shorter stroke and a higher stroke rate than Lauren. And Lauren is taking a little bit more smooth in her approach. Interesting how on two different ergs, they have totally different form.
Absolutely. And if we look here now, we've got men's results from the skier. Ryan Kent out there with a 3:35. Dylan Scott with a 3:45. That's fantastic for him. Again, the land shark, Brent Hastert with 3:50. Rich Ryan, 3:54. Cole Schwartz, 3:55. Magida. So we're looking at Hunter, not even in the top 8 for the skier.
Now, I think that was the run into the skier.
Oh, that was a run in? Sorry, my bad. My apologies.
That's just my... Oh, no, that says 1,000 meter skier. But what that means is that it either didn't show him. It's either the run or he's not showing up. His timing chip's not accurate right now.
Either way, still great results for guys like Dylan and Victor that put in good runs.
What that shows is the evolution of the sport, though. If that was the run, we used to see 3-0, 3 teens in the first run or two, and then it would settle in. Now, this is a longer first run. Usually the first run's a little short. This run's a little long. But still, even if you account for that, that is a conservative first run.
Now, a lot of people I understand on the rower take this as an opportunity to kind of pace themselves, to kind of maybe recoup a little bit. But it doesn't look to me like Lauren and Rachel are doing that. It looks like they are pushing.
Rowing is so tricky to judge, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Because you can't see what they're putting in. There are some people that look like they're flailing away with no real wattage out, and other people look like they're calmly rowing and they're putting out huge watts.
Well, as well, and when you consider just from my personal experience, when you adjust the damper, they can have a bit different times on it.
The damper is an interesting one with Hyrox. They preset the damper to a setting. I believe it's 5 for women and 7 for men. Could be off on the female damper, but you can adjust it one time and that's it. And you don't know what the damper is doing. You don't know the condition of the machine. You don't know the condition of the chain. You don't know how bogged down the flywheel is with dust. And that all changes what you're actually pulling against resistance wise. What the drag factor really is calculated by any decent rower before they get on a machine. But you don't have the opportunity to get on a machine before you get to pick your lane.
And here we have Hunter is going into what he is best at, but he is still almost, I would say, a third of a length behind Kent.
All right, he got down there 8 seconds after Kent, and Kent only rested for 2 to 3 seconds.
And there's no mistake, that is Dylan Scott in third.
Dylan Scott wrapped himself around that sled in his typical form.
I believe that is Brent right behind him in the yellow headband.
Now, Hunter has admitted that the last time these two raced, Ryan Kent came in with his sub-60 performance and a lot of hype, and Hunter buried himself on the sleds in order to get rid of Kent. And he said he spent the rest of the race, and he beat him by like 2 minutes this day, but he spent the rest of the race fearing that he wasn't going to be able to finish because his legs were going to cramp or give out.
But he also put in one of his best times that day, did he not?
He had his second best time, maybe. So anyways, he's comfortable over revving in order to disrupt someone else's race, but he's not gaining a lot of time here. And I wonder if he's going to rev up even another notch. And there it is. That was a big push right there.
Now you're seeing a lot of different styles here. We're seeing, like I said, we see Brent and Dylan both going very low and using their shoulders and elbows to push, whereas Hunter and Kent are both grabbing very high on the sled and lifting it up as they push.
I've recently converted over to a little bit more time spent using the crook of my arm, Dave.
I kind of think that would be a good one. I mean, obviously, I think when you're doing a sled push, ideally you want to find that perfect angle between traction and power. Much the same as like on a motorcycle, when you go around a corner, you know, you want to have that level of traction in the tire. So while you still give up an angle, it's all about angle as far as I can
take a look at this sled, if you can. When they stand up, look where their arms are compared to the top of the handle. And when they're going, the top of the handle is about even with the top of the middle handle that holds the weights. There are probably 8 extra inches on a normal sled that the handles come up.
Kent is out.
Oh, Hunter blasted that push. And I think that's the single biggest factor on these sleds is that you're so much lower to the ground than on any sled you train on or use in a gym. And so that's why that crook of the arm thing helps, is it gets your feet and your knees back closer to your center of gravity in the sled rather than strung out way behind you because the handles are so low. Look how far back Dave's feet are trying to get his hands there.
He's making up ground on this sled push, I think, though.
Yes, he is. And he's third out. He's walking.
He's got another length to go.
That's a long rest. You wouldn't be resting that long if everything was going according to plan, unless you were so dialed in that your plan included long rests to help you for later. This gap's growing, Dave.
Yeah, it is definitely. Kent and Hunter have definitely separated themselves from the field. And as always, this sled has made such a difference in everybody's game plan.
Mm-hmm.
But it looks like Brent has taken over third for the moment.
So I think this sled pull is where we're going to find out what Kent really is going to do today. Oh, Dave's struggling on that sled. Did you see that?
Yeah.
He got no movement on that last attempt he just gave. Going back to Kent, because Kent has been doing everything on a torque tank.
Mm-hmm.
He has one at his house. It's easier for him to use. He can get workouts in. He's got a young baby at home. It's easy to just work out there. In pushing that, you can really get it to resist you, but pulling it doesn't feel the same.
And Brent is out in third. He has to be feeling very confident.
Cole's right out behind him in fourth.
So now we looked at this. We had Dylan came into this in third, and now there's someone else in the back. He's probably down to fifth or sixth now.
Rich Ryan goes out.
But again, that's to be expected for his frame, and this is definitely his hardest station.
If you recall, looking back at Dylan the first time we saw him at Nationals, he made moves on Rich. Do you remember that?
Yes, he did.
He did not here.
No, I think it's more a case of Rich upping his game rather than anything else.
Mm-hmm. There's a comment that the sled looks heavier than the Madrid one. And we've heard about the runners. We've heard about the carpet. I've come to the conclusion that I'm on team handle height. Handle height being lower. I did this. I looked at all of our live streams we've done, and I paused the still anytime someone was standing next to it. And it was so low compared to where their arms are at rest that I marked that place off on my sled and taped it and started doing my sled training on that tape. And it immediately felt like Hyrox sled. It's just a game changer.
Well, there we're looking at sled push times. Ryan Kent with a 2:42, Cole with a 3:38. So that's just unbelievable. Rich Ryan 3:54, Victor Quesada 3:58.
Now 2:42 is a fast sled, and Hunter probably went 2:35.
So it does seem that Hunter's chip is not picking up for some reason.
Yeah. Now he threw something to the crowd when he ran into the ski erg. I'm assuming it was his shirt, but he definitely tossed something off to the crowd. Maybe his chip had already fallen off. Maybe it's just not registering. We've seen this before. Racing here 2 years ago, my chip didn't register the entire race. So we've seen it happen. They have protocol for that, but it's obviously not ideal for us.
No. But we know Hunter is up there. He's definitely up there battling with Kent. So we'll pass the eyesight.
Watching these women run past here, Chris Roglowski has that same form still, and you're starting to see the head dip and bob on some of these other women.
I have no idea. There we got Lauren Weeks is obviously first to the farmer's carry. She's going through and looking strong as always. And I think that's Rachel in the background that we see.
Now that Rachel, they're both going down, which means there's at least one entire back in there. So she's now down a full 25 meters.
Now, if you were Rachel, where would you think you would be last shot to make the move? I would think on the walking lunges would be the time she would need to make her move.
Lunges and wall balls are both places people can crack. I mean, we saw Brent come in 5th to 3rd or 6th to 3rd here last year. So it's absolutely possible. But you're relying on the reigning world champ to crack, and that's not super likely.
And there we have Hunter is on the pole.
Looks to have moved into first.
I just saw you say that.
Oh, no. Kent's down. Sorry.
Yeah. But he is pulling hard.
President. Never, Johnny. This is president of a shoe company. I accept that. All right, so Kent thinks his secret weapon here on the sleds are his shoes. I'm not even going to reveal the shoe because it's his secret weapon, and I don't know a single other athlete who races in these. It shouldn't shock you, Dave. I have a pair of these at home, but they do not have enough cushion for me. I can't run on pavement in these for 8x1000. That's too much, but they have phenomenal traction. And unlike some of the other shoes, they have good traction. They also stick very well to polished concrete. So he thinks, he told me before, he said, man, I'm going to fly on these sleds. He's so pumped because of his shoes.
Oh, I can't argue with his results here because he is definitely flying on the sleds.
Yeah. But we're talking, this is maybe a sub 5 ounce racing flat. There's a chance that the quad and calf impact that he takes throughout this race comes to bug him later on. By the time you get to lunges and wall balls, if your quads are shot, they're shot.
Yeah.
So far, the man's secret sauce is playing out.
Yeah, and it looks like here we have in the women's as well. We still have Lauren, Rachel, Alyssa, and then Chris Rogolowski is making a move on the farmer's carry. She is definitely shortening the gap between her and Alyssa.
Listen, if she takes third today, do we just hand her the crown now of most versatile?
Oh yeah. I don't even know that we have to wait. Yeah.
Lauren keeps popping up top 10 in all these U.S. National Series mountain races out of nowhere. It's freakish ability of her.
And then Vivian in fifth.
Vivian gave a big gasp there and almost a roll of her eyes, but then got head down and right back to trotting with those things.
Now, we didn't see it, but earlier on, Rachel did have to set down.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah, that is growing.
We've never seen Hunter not come off the sleds first in the U.S.
Even in the Worlds, when he was with Toby, they were very close together. This is...
Yeah, that's true. He cracked on the burpee broad jump.
Yeah. That is definitely a massive surprise. Well, thank you very much, Stephanie, for the donation, the super sticker. Glad you're tuning in and enjoying.
Now the video keeps freezing, but I think we're over 20 seconds at this point.
And it looks like Hunter's on his way out, though.
And I shouldn't speak for you, Dave. I still don't believe Hunter can outrun Kent on these runs.
I would agree with you. The condition that Kent's in right now and the way he's been training, he just has that speed. And these intervals just seem to really suit him.
Second half of the race, altitude training is really going to play out. You could argue that Hunter's more suited for a 60-minute race right now, potentially. Mm-hmm. Kent has altitude in his back pocket. Hunter's a phenomenal rower and phenomenal at burpee broad jumps. This is where we're going to find out. We saw Hunter look human on the burpee broad jumps and the lunges for the first time at Worlds in Germany. Which one are we going to see today? The destroyer or the human?
Yeah, because normally when I think of really good burpee broad jumps, Hunter's usually really good at them, stays very low and compact. He doesn't use that two-step technique. He just bounces forward both feet at the same time, but he always looks very smooth and fluid.
I think German Worlds was the first time he did not have the fastest burpee broad jump split in the entire field. It generally is an ace in the hole for him, as is rowing. I said it last time, but one time I questioned him. I said, hey, man, if you had to go to the Olympics, just give everything up and go for it, what would you do? He said rowing, hands down. He's rowed a 6:07 2K. And that's a very fast two. That's not Olympic times, but that's untrained for the most part.
It's very fast. And I just saw him run by. And when I saw him run by the camera there, he did not look as well held together as Kent already.
He was running fast.
Yes,
but he was earning it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it wasn't that fluid, like, say, Chris Rogolowski stride that we see.
Yeah. And you don't want to be earning it already. It's very early in the race. We're not even halfway done yet. That's the crazy part. We're heading into station 4, which is burpee broad jumps for 80 meters. And that is enough burpee broad jumping to put the seal of approval on either a good race or a race that's starting to crumble.
Yeah.
Rich Ryan done with the pole. Leaves ahead.
Cole right behind him.
On the run, he passed Cole, and he managed to hold it through the pole.
Yeah. There goes Brent, I think, finishing. And they're just about to finish, and Dylan right with him. Now we got Lauren Weeks is on her walking lunges. And she just looks nice and solid, same as always, just like everything she does.
Everything is clockwork for her.
And we did not mention this at any point in time, but Lauren holds the record with a sub 104. So she is in the 103s, and I mean, that's just unreal.
Yeah, sometimes you have someone who can put up a fantastically fast time, and then someone else who is a championship racer, but they don't always do the same. She's the reigning world champ, and she has the fastest time. She's got it both, which means she can run a time trial race and she can run a slug it out race.
And I think that is Rachel Vondrack just coming down. So she's like a whole length, almost 2 lengths behind her, but she is moving really well.
She is. That could be a minute with lunges. That could be 40 to 60 seconds.
Yeah, and again, you don't know if Rachel can maintain that pace or not. If she can maintain that pace, she will make up a bit of ground, but at what cost?
Ricardo, we have no arguments there. Camilla's putting it down today.
Yeah, Rachel's still looking very smooth.
Just a kind of form you just want to emulate.
That's how I think I look when I do lunges.
I bet you do. This is towards the end of the lunges. She just has to finish this down.
Oh, no, she's got to go down and back. You can see Lauren on the way back.
So okay, never mind. She's almost halfway done, and I haven't seen her take a rest step yet.
So there we are. We're seeing on the sled pull Kent with a 252.
A fast pull, if that's legit.
Yeah, Cole Schwartz with a 3
pull is almost unheard of in the U.S.
Cole Schwartz is a strong guy, and he did a 352, and Kent was a minute faster.
Cole has defied the odds. Generally, Matt Novakovic said this 8 years ago. You are your third race. Mm-hmm. And by the time you've done 3 races, whether it's OCR or hybrid racing, like you can see your ceiling. You can see what it is. And in Cole's third race, I battled back and forth with him for a 69-minute finish. And now this year he's gone 62 and 61, or is it 60 and change? And
he was sub 60 overseas as well.
Sub 60 overseas. I mean, he is not defined by his third race. He has continued to progress and progress and progress. And he's just not the same athlete on course that he used to be.
Thank you very much, Keith, for your donation. We really appreciate it, buddy. I'm noticing 2 very good battles here. One on the women's side between Alyssa and Chris, and then on the men's side between Dylan and Cole.
Dylan, Cole, and Rich.
Yeah, Dylan, Cole, and Rich are all battling.
Brent Hestert's in there. You've got a 4-man squad there.
And you see we got Kent on his burpee broad jumps.
I'd love to get eyes on his form. I know this back corner is our sketchiest reception area.
There you go. That's Hunter there. Next, I say, look how low and condensed he stays.
This is not Hunter at his best. He doesn't pause ever at his best, and he's pausing on the way down and at the bottom here. This is a half-second pause at both phases that he doesn't normally do.
No. He's definitely not looking as quick. I mean, still good. Those are long jumps.
And that was also at the very end of it. So I don't want to seal his fate quite yet, but goodness, there was no Kent in sight.
Nope. So on the sled pulls again.
Rich Ryan just entered the burpee broad jump in 3rd place. Sorry, my headphones died.
Thank you so much, Nick. So there you go. Rich Ryan in 3rd place right now. He's definitely made a comeback.
Struggle for volume. Rich Ryan, 3rd place. That warms the heart. This man has been the man to beat in DECA, and he hasn't had his Hyrox moment yet.
Oh, from the look of it, it could be on its way today because Rich also has a fantastic engine, and I think he has played this right today where he has gone at his pace and ran his own race.
And yet he's in a group of closers. Brent closes with the best of them. You do not want to get to wall balls with the Land Shark anywhere within shouting distance of you. Dylan doesn't fade too badly, except sometimes on wall balls. Mm-hmm. And David, at least coming into this, wanted to backload his race. It's just they've been working hard for almost 40 minutes now, and it's not even close to over.
Well, what you say with Brent is so true. It's nothing for him.
Rich Ryan, closely followed by Dylan Scott and Cole Schwartz in the burpees.
And I didn't even say Cole. Cole doesn't slow down either. These guys all have engines that will see them through to the end.
And what you say about Brent, I totally echo. It's not unusual to see Brent get in there and do 75 unanswered on unbroken wall balls to start.
Yeah, there's a chance he just knocks it out in 2 sets.
Thank you very much, Jean or Jean. Sorry, we are definitely rooting for Rich. He's doing great out there. So it'd be very interesting to see who comes off this.
Oh, Rich has taken some time on these last few. Watch, coming up here.
Now, is that intentional? Is that managing the gap? Or
it might have been a one-off rep I saw, but Dylan Scott just made his first pass of Cole. And Dylan's training is almost nonsensical from a 20,000-foot view. It's almost nonsensical from a 10-foot view because there's no rhyme or reason to it. But what it does is it absolutely bulletproofs his engine. The man can just put out the entire time. And you can see here, he's not slowing on these body weight functional exercises that other people are starting to. And the strength is done. Even the walking lunges with, what is it, 60 pounds for the men?
66 pounds.
66 pounds. It's not easy, but it's not a competition of strength. It's still putting out functional, mostly body weight power on that. And that's something he can do all day.
Yeah, his when you say nonsensical, it's almost absurd, his training. It
is absurd. And he's the first one to admit it.
But I don't know any other athlete that seems as in touch with his physical, his rest and as his output as him. He seems to just go completely on feel, and it's worked so well for him.
And I think he and Brent get more out of their individual skill sets than anybody else. Look at that burpee broad jump.
And there you go. We have Dylan Scott, again, like we said, 204 on the burpee broad jumps. Cole Schwartz with a 209, Rich with a 213, and Kent with a 213.
Sub 230 is moving.
Yeah.
And we're sitting here almost at sub 2. Dylan and Brent, both of them on paper, if you listed out all their attributes that are needed here, they just don't look like something that's going to blow you away. Dylan, his running times for OCR Stars Hunters competition, his 3 mile was not something that would scare anyone on paper. He ran a marathon this year. He did very well, but it's not a scary time. And yet he comes out here and he outruns people who are a minute faster in a 5K, and he outruns people who would be 20 minutes faster in a marathon, and he outmuscles people who would put 200, 300 more pounds on a bar than him. He and Brent get so close to their ceiling and can hold there all day long.
And there it's looking like we have Kent and Hunter on the rower.
And we've got to have women approaching or actually on at this point lunges. I mean, not lunges.
Wall balls. They got to be getting close there. Bill, if we can try to get you over the wall balls, that'd be great.
I'd love to see what they're rowing per 500 right now.
And here comes Lauren as we speak. Bill's just in the right spot watching Lauren coming into the wall ball area.
That's not the stride of someone who's dreading wall balls. Even if she's running hard into it. It's tempting to ease off the throttle a little bit, knowing you have to do 100 of these bad boys.
Just shift a bit to get out of the way of that cameraman. There we go. Oh.
Kent looked like he was almost off. That or he was just changing his stroke for a second.
Lauren just looking super smooth with that form. What I notice about her is that, and there, that Rachel, it looks like she never goes down any further than she has to.
Yep. She finds what the judge is going to accept, and she just locks in there.
Oh, we lost Bracken there. There we go.
I was wrong. Kent is not off the rower yet. It was just a glitch in the matrix.
Ah. And there's Rachel right beside Lauren now.
Rachel's on.
Lauren taking a bit of a break there, just a small one.
And that's the key there. That's the difference between a good athlete and a great athlete on these stations are the ones that can take 1-2 quick breaths and get right back to work rather than drop, walk away, shake your arms. I mean, her rests are 3 seconds or less.
Yeah, it looks to me like Rachel is just going to give everything she has to go as many as she can. Oh, and there it is. She finally dropped.
And she reps a little bit quicker. She's a little more compact. The ball never really drops much below her chin or her neck. You can almost see Lauren's head over the top of the ball, and you are not going to see that with Rachel. She keeps that thing up, and she powers up from the legs.
And there's Alyssa.
Look at Alyssa.
She's had a fantastic day.
She has.
And like you say, it's good to see. She's such a fierce competitor. And this is a sport that seemed like it should be so made for her. So it's nice to see her finally getting over the edge.
And anything can happen on these things. We've seen Brent do it, where I think Dylan Scott came into third last time, with Chris coming in now, and then he left not on the podium. Like, the same thing could happen to Alyssa, but at the very least, she's proved to herself that she is right in that group.
Oh yeah, if she is hanging with those women, she has proved she's top notch.
Both men are off.
It looks like Rich Ryan's still on the rower there in the end.
Yeah. Rich on, and I believe that is Cole next to him, 2 away from him.
Lauren and Rachel are going head to head here. Rachel has definitely made up ground. I'm not sure what the count is at, but she has made up ground.
And we used to see the winner and maybe the second one. That was where that's all you'd see on this station. Now we've got 4 strong coming in. And there's a separation, there's a gap, but it's not like one's on 80 and one's on 2. This is a really, really good performance by 3rd and 4th place, considering how good they are. Now, what Alyssa's pointing to here is they have a counter there, and it's been malfunctioning today. They have a digital counter with someone with a clicker that sends signals, and it's been lackluster, to say the least.
But still, glad to see Hyrox trying to get that in there.
Oh, for sure. And to their credit, they're on top of it.
And there is that Lauren getting across the line.
Lauren, the North American champion here.
Unbelievable.
She continues to reign supreme.
She just has this dialed in.
She does. She absolutely does. So you got all 4 of them on there, that chase group. All 4.
And there goes Rachel Vondrack in for second.
That is a lot closer than it looked like it was going to be.
Well, the amount of wall balls Rachel made up there, she made up a ton of time on those wall balls.
And I have to imagine she took some time on those lunges too.
Yeah, I think so too. If she had maybe just a little better and a little better dialed in on a run. And for today, we know that Rachel Vondrack traveled to Chicago this morning. So she drove there this morning to get this in. This was very much a last second. She was a game time decision. Both of them, yes.
Yeah, Rachel drove up. Lauren was apparently cleared by her doctor last minute.
Yeah, and with Lauren coming into this, considering what she is dealing with right now, and being able to do this is amazing.
The rower's tough here because you can see each other's screen. You see Cole looking over to his left at Brent's screen, and you know what they're putting out on the rower, and you can see what you're putting out, and it's very black and white if you're doing well or not.
Yeah, now we can see here, we can see Cole looking like a very nonchalant pace, but Dylan's off. And there goes Alyssa Hawley in for 3rd.
Congratulations, Alyssa.
Well deserved.
It looked like we had much less than a minute between 1st and 2nd, and around that minute or 2 to 3rd. This is a really, really good showing by all 3 women. So you have Victor Quesada on the rower, which we did not see him in the picture last year after his first couple rounds. So he has absolutely improved his game this year.
Oh, yeah. And definitely a smarter effort from Victor.
We haven't seen David Magida yet. There's no quit in Hunter.
No, absolutely not. So just so you know, Lauren Weeks was in with a 107.03 and Rachel with a 107.30. So we're talking 27 seconds difference. You were pretty damn close with that 30 seconds. Then Alyssa Hawley with a 108.41.
Getting inside information here. We just had Lisa Crocker chime in my ear. David Magida's walking around the venue.
Oh.
Which makes sense. I thought about a minute ago that someone walked by wearing a backpack looking like him, but I thought that's crazy. That couldn't possibly be.
No, hopefully he's not injured, and hopefully he will be okay.
Rich just ran by running very, very aggressive. He looked good. I watched Rich in Orlando, and he's a strong runner, but his running changed a little bit in the last few runs. His running looks markedly improved right now. And that's always the question. When you put on mass with the intent of putting out more power, does it change the way you can run?
And we had Chris Rogalowski in with a 109.28 in fourth place, and it looked like Vivian just crossed the line there.
Yeah. Chris Rogalowski continues to do what she does, which is everything well.
That's the best way to put it. Yeah, she just does it all.
Kent coming through on Farmer's Carry.
And
this is an area he's really improved.
He has looked bulletproof, like on everything.
He has gone all in on this hybrid race training, not just on the racing. A lot of people do a lot of the racing, but still stick to their modular training where I'll train some running, I'll train some of this, but he's gone all in on this, and it's showing what a focused Ryan Kent can do.
Is he another guy that, well, you made this comment about Alyssa earlier, where he was just waiting for the right sport to find him, and now it has.
And it found him when he had kind of lost his drive. He had gone out of love with running and OCR, and he even took time away. You know, he talked about his struggles with, he lost strength and speed, he gained weight, he didn't love it anymore. And then he got back into it, and this style of racing came back around, and he was now doing it because he loved it, and it suited his skill set so well.
I will say this Hunter is not giving up. He is not packing it in. Little mistake on my part. It was not Vivian that crossed the line there. It was Camilla, and she came in at a 1:10.27 for fifth place.
Oh, our apologies, Camilla. We've been calling you Vivian all day.
And there's Kent on the... Is that Kent? No, that's Cole, sorry.
Cole on the run. Kent's got to be in transition heading out to his run.
And that was Rachel White going by. Oh, sorry, Heather White, my mistake. There's Kent. And just, again, looking down at his watch, looking completely smooth in his run.
Mm-hmm.
That is quite a gap now. We haven't seen Hunter yet.
Been 15 seconds, no Hunter. I think it's going to be a lot longer. I'm guessing it's close to 45 seconds at this point.
That is a massive gap at this point in the race.
It could be a little less. He was really working that Farmer's Carry, but I'm guessing 30-second minimum.
Then they're going into what I believe is the most painful part, though, going into those walking lunges. And actually the run after the walking lunges, to me, should be the most painful part of the run, of the whole race.
Almost every station up to this point, you can fake it and sell out if you want. If that was Hunter just coming by, he's at a 50-second deficit. It was hard to tell if that was him. But every station you could sell out if you want to. You would just know it would cost you later. If you go off after those weighted lunges, it costs you in the moment. You got maybe 10 or 20 steps you can take, and then reality hits and you're done.
And here we are on the Farmer's Carry, and that is Dylan Scott.
And Rich coming right back into it.
And again, I would say Dylan looks like he's struggling, but he just looks like that. That is just the way he goes.
70 pounds in each hand is enough that someone who probably only weighs 155, 160, maybe 165, that is a big percentage of your body weight. It's going to hunch you over a little bit. It's going to make you look not as strong as the people around you.
The most I've ever heard Dylan claim to weigh is 160 at his max.
160,
huh? It looks like right there he had maybe a 3-second lead on Rich.
We really don't want to make too big a deal of weight, of actual numbers.
No.
But in a sport where actually moving weight matters, the amount of mass you have on your frame resists the weight you're moving against. It's the reason why power lifters, true power lifters, are very, very large. It provides stability, and you can just resist the mass that's being put upon you by the weight. And so it really does matter on some of these stations what your body weight is. You can always balance it out elsewhere, though.
There we go. On the farmer's carry, we had Ryan Kent with a 121, Rich Ryan with a 124, and Dylan Scott with a 125.
Goodness.
Again, Hunter's chip not activated, obviously, so we're not sure where he fits in his
Oh, excuse me.
So while Bracken composes himself, we also had Corinna Coffin come in on a 113.06. And, I'm going to say...
Rich Ryan and Dylan Scott, third and fourth.
Yeah, it's neck and neck, Rich Ryan, Dylan Scott. There you go. It looks like they're running side by side. Corinna Coffin's time, I'm a little surprised.
Yeah, it is surprising. I said I would never bet against her, even if she wasn't preparing specifically for this. But it speaks to the demands of this event that some specificity of training for this even affects the greats in this sport. And I'd say she is one of the greats in this sport's history.
Part of me, and I'm going to be honest, part of me likes to see it. I like to see the people who have specified and specifically trained for this event excel at it, i.e. a Kent, a Dylan Scott, a Lauren Weeks. I like to see that.
As cool as it is to see people dabble and jump in and just be awesome, it slightly discredits the sport itself by anyone being able to jump in. This shows how strong the sport is. Hunter just started.
Yeah, and Kent has already done almost 2 lengths.
They're passing each other right here. Now Hunter's moving with that thing. He's working much faster than Kent currently, but the gap is big. Oh my goodness. If this comes down to wall balls after all of this, I'm not saying Kent's fading, but it would be impossible not to be in a large amount of distress. We just saw a false step there.
I still think Kent he's managing the gap. I don't think he's giving everything he has right now. I think he knows where he's at. He's a smart racer. And I think he knows that all I need to do now is just be smart and finish this out.
We'll be able to see right here where they pass each other, how much the gap's closed. Kent was about 5 lunges from the end the last time they passed. There's the pass.
Hunter maybe has made up like 1 or 2 lunges.
He has. And he's certainly moving faster.
Yep.
But is it too little too late, or has Kent thrown 8 innings of a no-hitter and suddenly about to give up a run?
Well, it's definitely not over.
No, it's not. Regardless, kind of how I talked about with Alyssa, regardless of what happens with Kent, he put on a show here. No matter what happens, this is one of the top performances of all time.
Absolutely. And again, he's just showing that he's here. He is one of the best. He's one of the greats, and he's definitely, I dare say he's gonna, to be the man, you got to beat the man, and he looks like he's gonna beat the man today.
Oh, and he's finishing this last one out stronger than he finished his previous. That speaks to what you were saying. He's perpetually underrated.
And even there, he's not walking over with the bag. He's running. He's already on the move.
Oh, my goodness. We are watching something we didn't think would ever happen, which would be Hunter potentially losing on U.S. soil. People like to give him the benefit of the doubt overseas because it's a different style of race, but this is not what people thought. There were plenty of people saying Kent could win, but I don't think a blowout was what they pictured.
How hard, if Kent seals this off, if Kent wins the day, how hard is this for Hunter to recoup from now? Would it be back-to-back losses at a sport that...
Looks like we lost a few people, so I'm going to solo for a bit. To answer your question, Dave, I think this could be, and I said it after Worlds, but this might be the very reason Hunter goes on a tear after this. He started a business. He started a second business. He was dabbling in his marathon training. He still had plans for marathon second half of the year and some U.S. races with some other companies. There's a real good chance Hunter goes into monk mode, as Anthony Kunkel says, and just says, you know what, forget everything else. This is my domain. I am not doing anything else until I reestablish that. And as you saw, Hunter is a scary hunter.
And as you saw, Hunter just went out. But right now we are having still this epic race between Dylan and Rich. And it looks like Rich has just inched ahead of Dylan by a few lunges, maybe 2.
This is actually where I would expect Dylan to be able to come back on him. And that's not taking anything away from Rich, but it's not enough weight to be a game changer for Dylan. But Dylan does crazy things like 800-meter bear crawls. And I think he did a 2-mile bear crawl once and 800-mile-long weighted lunges. He just has the ability to keep working and working and working and working. And it just doesn't make sense, but he's doing it.
Yeah, he defies a lot of logic. And whereas Rich is so scientific and his training would be, and not to insult Dylan, Rich's training would be very intelligent, very focused, very classic in its mindset.
They're on opposite ends of the spectrum in terms of training philosophy, and that Rich has a very specific one, and Dylan's is wake up and see what I'm going to do today. And that's not hyperbole. He literally wakes up and decides what he's going to do. But he has to know, I have to get to wall balls before Rich. He's either changed his skill set dramatically, or he knows that it's the biggest piece missing from his game right now.
So we had a question here from Steve. Isn't it possible that someone from another heat could beat these guys?
Yes, it is.
It's just not very likely.
It's not likely. You'll see it in the second half. Someone from another heat could take maybe 5th through 10th, but the guys at the front are there for a reason. There's always the chance that an unknown comes in and smashes it on their first attempt, but if they've done one before, they're ranked by their time and they'd be put in the fast heat.
And there's Rich done his lunges.
And it did open up a little bit.
Yeah. Now, Dylan came out there with a little more run than Rich, but I think that might be desperation more than anything.
Yeah, and he has to. He has to run this run. But it's a catch-22, because if he doesn't attack this run, he probably can't out-wall ball Rich. But if he attacks the run, now he's more depleted coming into the wall ball. So this is going to be a very, very telling moment for how much has he improved his wall ball game.
And you can see right there, 3:03 for Ryan Kent, 3:12 for Rich Ryan, and 3:17 for Dylan Scott. So Rich actually made 5 seconds up on Dylan on that.
In the second half of this race, Rich's splits, we haven't seen the runs lately, but at the stations have been every bit as good as Kent's. They've been going back and forth on the top split. And Dylan's been right there behind him, but they put in some work early on that ski erg and on both of those sleds that the rest of the field had no response to.
Does this just show that maybe Rich Ryan's ceiling is higher than we thought it was?
I think it justifies that his ceiling's actually what we thought it was going to be when we first saw him. Last year, when we talked about it at the last U.S. National Championship, we looked and said, he's dark horse for a podium, and then he didn't have his day. I think he's kind of just gotten his body and his training to where we expected his talent to be in the first place. Dylan's the one that continues to blow my mind.
Well, we have no idea what Dylan. And now we have Kent running into the wall balls.
All right, I got a clock coming in. He was at 2:14:05 entering the area.
And I will say this again. He was running into the wall balls. He was not holding back. He was cruising comfortably.
This is a bit of an unknown for me. We know what Hunter can do on these. I don't really know where his wall ball game is at. He doesn't do this move in his other style of hybrid racing.
No, but I mean, he's already at 13, 14 and moving quite well.
Yes.
And again, another one going just low enough.
Yep.
He just cracks that plane.
I guess the shoes were not a lie. They weren't a red herring. They're the truth today.
And what are they? Come on, you got the eye. Can you even pick them out?
Oh, yeah. Reebok Float Ride Pro. They're actually a little bit of an older shoe. They were one of those first nitrogen-infused foams. You wouldn't expect Reebok to be ahead of the curve, but they came out with that shortly after Nike hit their Zoom X jackpot.
So we were looking at, he's already at 37 and he's not broke yet.
I guess that answers the wall ball question.
And here comes Hunter. So you're looking at a 41 wall ball deficit.
With a 20-pound ball at the end of somewhere between 55 and 60 minutes of work. I don't expect these times to be fast today because the course is a little long. You can't fake 50 unbroken wall balls. You just can't.
There he is, yeah, and maintaining that lead. I don't know that he doesn't have it in his head that he wants to do this unbroken. Oh, there it is. There it is. 55.
She's got a 40 wall ball lead and shrinking.
Now we'll keep an eye on his comparison when Hunter takes his first break, if he does.
And if his wall balls look a little bit different from other people's, it's because you usually throw a little bit more with your dominant hand, and he's one of those rare lefty athletes. So it looks a little funky to the eye, but it's the same as Hunter's. It's just the mirror opposite end.
The Hunter is making up ground here.
He hasn't broken yet, and Ryan did. So Ryan was at 41 ahead when he broke, and now it's about, what, 32, 33 lead?
Yeah. Yeah, he's got a 30 wall ball lead.
It's a desperate feeling on both ends. Kent's watching that number inch closer to his, and Hunter's watching Kent's number inch closer to 100.
And there's Hunter's first break. And it's a long one.
And I think that kind of seals it right there.
Yeah, I think he threw his best shot. He went for that knockout punch, and it didn't go.
At this point, Ken could do sets of 3 and be just fine.
Rich Ryan just coming in third.
With maybe
Rich
60
Ryan just
or
coming in
70
third.
straight, it could be interesting.
He doesn't have
So
a
there we
ball.
hear Rich Ryan just getting on the wall balls.
Did you hear that? He came in and didn't have a ball.
He didn't have a ball.
It's not the most efficient move.
Dylan Scott's coming in fourth.
Dylan right behind him.
Well, this is it.
92, taking one last break. $94. Only 5 to go for Ryan Kent to be your champ.
Well, this is going to be an early leader in the clubhouse for upset of the year.
And there it is, 100 wall balls. Ryan Kent running across the finish line, your Hyrox US champion.
Oh, Hunter's going to soak this one in.
There was a definitive look of disdain right
Yeah, he's going to remember this every day for the next several months until he gets another crack at that man. The really great ones, that whole MJ meme, and I took that personally, they all have that. And Hunter has had that from day one. He doesn't have to search too hard to find slights, and this one is going to eat at him.
there. Oh, it's true chalkboard material.
So it doesn't look like Dylan Scott's counter is registering.
And Rich Ryan's looks like it's stopped.
So everyone's flying blind here unless you can hear their officials counting.
Any idea what we got on account for Rich there, Nick?
Hunter's through.
No, he's on the other side, so I'm not for sure. 58 for Rich Ryan.
Do we have another male in yet? Here comes, is that Cole trotting in?
Yeah, that's Cole. Ryan Kent's official time, 57:45. 7:45.
Is that second fastest all time?
I believe that it is.
57:45. On a course that we do not believe is fast, or I do not believe is fast, having run it this morning.
Right now,
And that-
Rich is at 70-something.
And the female times today were 3 minutes off the world
Come on,
record.
Rich, you got to dig. Come on, Dylan.
Rich is in there. Hunter McIntyre's record time is a 57:34. So that is how close Kent was on what you deemed not a fast course.
That 11 seconds? I'm not
It's an amazing run from Rich. But this is the fitness that Rich has that he didn't get to use all year last year because he was hurt.
Bonus commentary from David Megita.
So what's our time right now? I think that was right there
Come on,
commenting.
Rich. He's got
59,
He's not
55.
going to crack, but what is his previous best?
10
67?
more, 10 more.
68?
Rich.
Yes, this is going to be far and away personal.
He's going to have a
best for him.
6+ minute PR. Again, I'm not a super fast. Now, he set that time in Orlando where I also raced. I did doubles with Michelle Aiken that day. And the transitions there were beautiful. The Hyrox zone was as efficient as it can possibly be. It was probably half to 2/3 of the total distance of these transitions.
And there goes Rich Ryan.
Wow. 60 and change, maybe 60, 45, 60, 50. I was way off. 60, 30. That is an incredible performance.
Unreal. And so good to see Rich, obviously a great representative and an amazing athlete.
And there's Brent, always lurking.
Question is, can Brent catch Cole?
If he can do his one break set, yes.
So Hunter McIntyre was in with a 58.49, and then Rich Ryan with a 60.35. So almost broke that 60-minute mark.
Now Hunter won last year with what here? Was it 59 or 60?
Yeah.
It was his first time not breaking an hour, I think, on U.S. soil, and he won convincingly. Ryan Kent almost didn't get into this race.
Yeah, and I mean, what a performance! Like he's just showing how fit and ready he is.
As of 3 days ago, he wasn't confirmed even to be able to be allowed to compete today. And until last night, until he passed the COVID test, and then this morning, he still wasn't confirmed yet.
There goes Dylan Scott, and I think Dylan's going to be very happy with his performance today.
That's got to be a 61 and change.
Yeah, that looks like 61.49.
That's a big PR. He answered the question, can he continue to improve at that frame? And yes, he can.
Yeah, I actually believe he does have room to go. His running can get better, and he can still obviously make a lot of ground on those sleds.
Oh, I believe he can improve. The question was, will he have to pull a Rich Ryan and try to pack on some mass to do so? But he didn't, and he still cut a couple minutes off.
There we go. And again, here our times: Lauren with a 107.03, Rachel 107.30, Alyssa with a 108.41, Chris 109.28. For the men, Ryan Kent 57.45, Hunter 58.49, and Rich Ryan a 100.35.
It would be fascinating to see the men's results from last year and women's overlaid over this year, because I believe the women got a little slower and the men got significantly faster across the board.
And there goes Cole Schwartz across the line. Dylan Scott, by the way, finished with a 101.51, his official time.
Cole Schwartz in fifth. Brent, unfortunately, didn't recreate the magic from last year, but still putting up a very good performance. Still could beat his time from last year.
Yeah, definitely. And he's shown to be getting more and more consistent.
And that's the tough part about how the sport's progressing density-wise, is that he has a chance of running his best time here, and he's going to lose a few slots in the standings. Like, they don't tell the full story of how you did.
After seeing the course layout and seeing the women's times, I'm really surprised at how incredible these men's times are.
Yeah. People discounted Ryan Kent's first 59-minute performance in New York. They said the rock zone was crazy small. The laps might have been short. You heard all this talk, and he just beat it by 2 minutes on a course where the world record holder ran 3 minutes behind her time.
Yeah, that's unbelievable. Cole Schwartz with a 102.52. I'm sure he'd be very happy with that time.
I believe so.
So anything that I think anything surprised you today that really caught you off guard?
Well, I mean, the low-hanging fruit is Ryan Kent caught me off guard. I'm a big supporter of Ryan Kent. He's a good friend of mine, but I did not think Hunter was going to lose. And Ryan beat him convincingly.
Before the race, if you had asked me, I would have called Kent for a mid-59 time on this race, somewhere around there, because I knew he was very motivated to beat that 60. So I would have called him for a mid-59. I did not see 57.45 coming out, especially on this course.
No.
And
he did it the hard way. He took it to him early, and he worked the sleds.
Yeah, and there are your official results, first through fifth, Ryan Kent, Hunter McIntyre, Rich Ryan, Dylan Scott, and Cole Schwartz.
Cole Schwartz here went 7 minutes slower 2 years ago.
7 minutes slower 2 years ago.
7 minutes slower.
That is unreal. You're doing
that is a significant improvement for a man that people had started to write off as that's probably his spot in the sport. It was not.
Hey, buddies. Hey, dudes.
Matt is back.
First of all, I'm so much more impressed on this end of the thing because you guys just talked for 2 hours straight. Like, it's pretty impressive. When you don't have to talk, you can just watch people. You guys are good.
We enjoy talking.
So I want to back up a little bit now that this is over. And when Hunter got beat the last time, I said all the things you just said. About he's hungrier now. Holy shoot. He's going to come. I don't know why I just stopped myself from cursing. He's going to really come out now and crush everybody, et cetera, et cetera. What do you, so you think now, now I'm really mad. What's the difference, I guess? Well, hang on. Let's see if we can get a word here with this guy. Oh, Nick, unmute yourself, buddy. Oh, there he went. Nick, unmute yourself, buddy.
Okay. Just like in my ear, like in my eyeball. No, it's pretty close, yeah.
What do you want to ask him, Bracken?
1 second. Let me give me my headphones.
Good idea.
Rich Ryan, Bracken here. Yep, one of two. Now, 6 months ago, you embarked on a journey to add significant size, power, and mass to you with the hopes of something like this happening. Is this the end result exactly what you pictured, or did it exceed that?
Tell him he's got to get closer. He's got to get closer to the microphone.
I think he needs the other headphones.
All right, start over. Yeah, that's better. Start
Perfect.
Yeah. So yeah, Bracken, you're right. Like I wanted to get bigger without sacrificing my speed or my strength endurance. So in terms of like a time, I didn't really have anything in mind. I just wanted to execute a plan, take it easy on the front half, not get sucked out into everybody's race, and then just kind of pick it up and run a complete race. So yeah, I feel like my body composition, my training, all mixed into this. Like the end result is awesome. Like I can't complain, but it's really about just like sticking to the process right from the training all the way through the race execution. So yeah, I'm pretty fucking happy about it.
Well, it's lovely to see a plan come together. You were in a battle with 4 other guys for that spot. What was your separating part of that race?
So Dylan Scott rolled up on the row. I thought he had a bad sled, and I just figured it wasn't his day. And then he kind of like blasted past me. I knew I had a bit of a running advantage on Cole and on Brent. So if like they weren't ahead of me after the strength stuff, I figured I could separate from them on the run. But then when Dylan came past in that row, he put on quite a bit of time. And I wasn't faltering. I wasn't.
What were you
feeling
rolling
bad
at?
about myself. He just crushed that row. I was rolling at 149, 150. So he was running like running 146, 147, hammering. And then after the farmer's walk, I felt fresh and was able to continue to kind of keep running. So I wanted to back 3 or 4 runs to my fastest, and that was kind of the separator. It was definitely on the runs.
Well, and that last run being almost a half lap longer only helps you compared to some of those other guys.
I know. When I saw the tech briefing, I was like, oh man, it's kind of short. Like if I want to have a shot to running these guys down, I would like that to be longer, and it was. So I wasn't happy that it was longer because I wanted to be finished, but yeah, it worked to my advantage, I think, a little bit.
Let's see if we can get a moment here with the champ here. Can we talk to Kent?
Well,
hey,
congrats,
Kent, you got
Rich.
a minute for ORM? Yes. Or you got your headphones? Thanks, guys. You need. Share here.
Whoa!
Ryan, can you hear me? Can you hear us, Ryan?
I can hear you. Yes.
So are you about to get DQ'd for those Reeboks?
Maybe.
You predicted
they weren't as good as I thought they were gonna be. They were good on the pull, like I had real good grip on the pull, but the push they were kind of sliding out a little bit. I was like, but still a good sled push.
Well, you said you were going to attack those sleds, and for the first time ever, Hunter McIntyre was behind coming off of the sleds. We've never seen it happen in any competition. Did you really expect that you were going to be able to come off ahead, or were you just giving it and see what's going to happen?
I guess it really started on the first run in ski erg. The pace felt really slow on the first run, and I was just kind of pulling away, and then I just had a monster ski erg without really putting any massive effort. I think I pulled a low 320, 325. I was averaging like 142s.
Yeah, we've not seen something like that before.
And it felt smooth. And when I came out of that, I was still like, my breathing was under control. I was like, okay, like you're right where you want to be. And then, yeah, I attacked the sled, and I knew Hunter was going to have to work a little bit harder to gain that ground. So I kind of changed my plan on the fly. I was like, all right, like, let's put him in a little bit of hurt right now and let him know that, you know, I came here to race. And when I came out of the push, still ahead of him, I said, okay, like that's one big station out of the way that he can really gain time on me. And then when we came out of the pull, I was still ahead, and I said, oh, it's game on at that point, because I knew there wasn't any station other than maybe wall balls that I felt like he could put a lot of time. So it was just, at that point, I was in control of the race. I was able to dictate when I wanted to push, when I wanted to back off. And yeah, it was just overall, I mean, God, I've never been so in control of my effort in a Hyrox. Like, it just felt so smooth, and about fell apart though in the wall balls, but thankfully I had a good enough lead where I was able to hang on.
When did you know?
After the pull.
Really? You knew that early?
Yeah, I was on one, and I could tell every time we would come around this far corner on the run, I would look down the straightaway on the opposite end, and I could tell I was putting significant time on him each lap. So I knew even if you were to gain a few seconds on burpee broad jumps or farmer's carry, I'd be able to gain that back. I had a 40 to 45 second cushion pretty much the entire race, and I was able to kind of, you know, use that lead to my advantage. And I think because my runs felt so strong that I didn't think there was any way he would catch me, as long as I kept my wall balls around that, you know, 420, 430 mark.
Dave, you want to go in here?
Yeah, Ryan, just how does it feel going in and doing so well at this race and realizing that a couple of days ago, you might not have even been in it?
I know, and I thank Christian just now, one of the founders of this race, and I told him thank you, because I knew I was so fit and I wanted to come race. And again, like you said, I didn't know it was going to be possible, but thankfully everything worked out and I was able to get here. And it's been tough, man. I've never had to work this hard for something, and it really makes me appreciate these moments more, because I do have a full-time job. I'm a dad. It's got a lot going on, and to still be putting out results like this, it's just, I don't know. It feels really special, and I really wanted that world record. I didn't realize how close I was, but that would have given me 3 out of the 4 major hybrid racing records with Deca Fit, Deca Mile, if I could have pulled off the Hyrox. And then I got a Deca Strong coming up next month. I kind of could have solidified myself there as maybe the best in the game right now, but maybe I still did, because you know, Hunter's beaten me way more times than I've beaten him, but it's a new year, and I'm ready to go.
So how does this feel for you and bode for you going into Vegas?
Well, Vegas is a long way away, and I'm fit now. A lot can happen in a couple months. I'm sure Hunter's going to go back to the drawing board, and I'm sure he'll be the favorite going into Vegas, even though I took him down here. But we've got a lot of time until then. I've got some cool things coming up in between there too. But you know, I thanked Hunter after the race. I really did. It's because of guys like him that allow me to go and put down a performance like that. Because if guys like Hunter didn't exist, it wouldn't push me to that next level. So I really thanked him for pretty much just kicking my ass in these events my whole career. Because again, he's the reason I'm able to, you know, train hard and race hard because he's the best there is.
Well, you should be so proud, and you should go celebrate. But before you do, I got to bring you down to earth one time and just think one negative thought. Were there 11 more seconds in you out there?
Yes.
Where?
Yeah. Probably on the runs.
Really?
Yeah, because for certain stations, maybe like 200 meters going into a station where I knew I really, like before the lunges, I really wanted to crank out the lunges. So coming up on the last lap, I kind of dialed it back, let my heart rate go down a couple beats before coming into the zone. And just little moments like that where I feel like I probably could have cranked out 11 more seconds. On the stations itself, I don't know, but definitely on the runs.
Well, all that aside, congratulations. It was a performance to watch. We loved seeing it. Good job, man.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
All righty, dude. Pretty awesome. I think it's. I think again to see a new champ and a new hungry hunter. But let's kind of wrap this all up by wrapping up the women's field today. Final thoughts on that.
Lauren Weeks blows my mind beyond amazing. She recently got over COVID as well, and is, I mean, we never officially said, but she is 3 months pregnant during this race, as she's publicly announced. So to do what she did today, to me, I was surprised only because I didn't know if she might hold back a little when clearly, as Bracken said earlier, that gear does not exist in Lauren's world. She is just win at all costs. And, you know, that's all I can say. She just amazed me. She blew me away with her effort. And I think this should go down as one of the most impressive feats in Hyrox history.
Listen, the pregnancy by itself is impressive, but I can't relate to that. You know, I just got over COVID and I felt really, really compromised today. And she still went out and won a national championship while being pregnant.
You have gotten people pregnant though.
Not people. My wife.
Person.
Listen, I was quiet the whole time. I got to throw a couple zingers in there. Come on.
That is my second biggest surprise of the race.
Which is
Matt
what?
was quiet. Matt was quiet the whole time.
Okay.
This is the new me. I'm moving out of the booth. I'm moving to the after the head coach, right? Then he's like executive of the team. That's where I'm going next.
You're gonna Jackie Moon this soon, though. Now on the women's side, I have to give love to Alyssa Hawley. She came in saying, "I'm just gonna try to win the stations and recover on the runs." And she did a little bit more than that. So fantastic to see her wind up on the podium. Much deserved. We need an Alyssa being dominant in the sport. She made other forums exciting when she was in the mix. She's making this one exciting. And then Chris Roglowski, more of the same.
Yep.
Yeah, I wasn't sure we'd get Alyssa back. You know, I talked to all the athletes, and you know, we've talked before how we're all kind of friendly, and Alyssa always keeps it low key. And when she's had a disappointing performance, and I ask her about it, she's like, "It's fine." Like she doesn't give a lot. So I really didn't know how serious she was taking it. Clearly, she's taking it very seriously. She beat a lot of good women today.
Well, I didn't say this beforehand, but talked to her today, and she said she certainly feels like she was in significantly better shape before the LA Hyrox.
Okay.
So this is her coming in not quite at full capacity, which really bodes well for Vegas for her if that's the direction she wants to go.
Well, and again, Vegas, we have to assume Lauren will not be competing in Vegas.
Someone's going to have to physically prevent her from getting back out on the race course at some point in this pregnancy.
They call those doctors.
It's going to take more than that. He's going to have to show up.
Well, I will 100% be in Vegas. If we can get David across the border, he'll be there. Bracken, will you be what's the word? Defending your title in Vegas?
That is the intent. Now, we can't defend what we don't have. We have the U.S. title, but we're going to go for the world title.
Okay.
Yeah, Callie and I both briefly talked. You know, you're all high on life after winning. We're like, yeah, we're going to do that, and then we're going to Europe, and we're going to get the Europe sleds. But as of right now, the plan is to go to Vegas and try to put up a performance.
Will you be at any other Hyrox? I think the plural of Hyrox is Hyrox, not Hyroxes. Will you be at any other Hyrox?
Michelle Aiken and I are looking to run it back again and do another doubles. I think I'm going to become like a kind of a double Sicario. Like, if you want it taken care of, call me up. Doubles weight really suits me better than the men's weight. It really does.
All right. Well, I will let people know. Well, why don't you let people know where people can find you on a weekly basis, twice a week, Bracken?
Twice a week, come on up to the Running Public podcast, learn a little bit, chat a little bit, BS a little bit. It's a good time.
Dave, where can we find you, buddy?
Every week on the OFX podcast or with Matt on the OCR Weekly Show. And I will be, provided I don't get COVID again, in Boston for the Boston Hyrox.
That's March, right?
Yeah, March 19th.
That's the one I'd be at, I believe. I think Michelle and I are targeting Boston.
Well, thank you, everyone who watched. We had some record numbers today, honestly. I think it was higher than most of the world's toughest viewings at any one time. So I can't imagine what this is going to be like when the UK and Germany and the world sends their athletes for Vegas. But for all the good folks at Obstacle Racing Media, can't forget our rabbits, Hannah Carta, Bill Brumbach,
Nick Riker,
and all the good folks.
Rich Ryan.
And Rich Ryan. See you soon, everybody. Love you and see me, and I got to run.